This is Camilla and Clare Investigate. This week on Camilla and Clare Investigate, podcasting, we talk to Jacob Anderson from Alitu. Here's a little bit of what's coming up.
I think audio in particular is very liberating in that way, because you can just do whatever you want. Ask yourself a question: do you want to talk about this relentlessly for 3 years? Or are you going to end up hating it? People had asked us so many times, how do I simplify the editing? Because this is the thing that's really holding me back. So don't want to become editors, they just want to create content. You could edit an episode in like 15 minutes instead of a few hours.
So back in the booth, live at the podcast show in London. This is Claire Reeves from Camilla and Clare Investigate. And this is our series on podcasting and what on earth all of that means. And to help us work out what it is we need to know about podcasting, I'm going to be joined by a number of guests today. And my first guest of the whole series, this is just for you, Jacob. So Yay. Jacob Anderson, introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Jacob. I am the head of growth at the podcast host and Alitu. We do two things. We teach people how to podcast and we give them technical wizardry, gadgetry to make it really easy, to make podcast editing software.
You therefore sound like the ideal person for this particular venture. So tell me, as somebody who has always thought that they probably should be involved in podcasting but has never really known quite where to start, what is the most important thing I should know?
You need to figure out why you want to do it. Because I think a lot of people want to start a podcast, but not a lot of people know exactly why they want to do it or who they want to do it for. We're huge proponents of purpose-driven podcasting. And I think that is the thing that really differentiates people who are doing it maybe just as a hobby, just as something to do because maybe they've seen some other people do it and they've taken inspiration from that. And that is fine. But if you want to push it and you want to reach people and impact people, then you need to have a purpose.
What do you think is the most successful formula then, thinking about why you want to do it? What would you say are the boxes you need to tick there?
I think the most important thing is it has to be something that you genuinely care about, right?
Good start, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the way we like to think about it is ask yourself a question: do you want to talk about this relentlessly for 3 years? Or are you going to end up hating it?
Okay, good. Yeah, good point.
And that question will normally help you narrow down what is it exactly that I want to do. Now, that's not to say that you can't start, like I've just started a new podcast series that's 8 parts, and it's only ever going to be 8 parts. And I don't really care who listens to it or doesn't, because the purpose is, it's for me, it's a diary. So I'm kind of telling a story of how I'm starting this little business and whether it's going to fail or it's going to survive, or, that purpose is a diary for me. But that kind of works, and I'm committed to talking about that for 8 episodes. But if this is something that you want to do long term, where maybe you want to build a brand for yourself, or you want to build a community, or you want to just entertain people and have a bit of fun, you need to make sure that that's something that you're going to be able to commit to either long term or set yourself quite a specific goal, like 8 episodes,
This is interesting, because when I was talking to Black Cat Music, who've kindly lent us this booth, they were saying to me that, you can just do something that's 8 episodes long. And I'm like thinking, to me, that it hadn't entered my head that I wouldn't be stuck with doing one thing forever, that you could just break it up, which is part of what Camilla and I are doing in our podcast series. So we're going to do a short series on podcasting, and then when we think we've had enough of that, we'll find something else we care about. Yeah. I guess the nice thing is that there's no rules, is there?
No, none at all. And that is the beautiful thing about podcasting. And especially, there's obviously a big push for video at the moment, but I think audio in particular is very liberating in that way, because you can just do whatever you want and there are no rules, other than maybe try and be as consistent as you can, just so that the people that do start listening, they can come to expect when it's going to come out and they can build it into their routines. But apart from that, even that's not a rule. It's just a guideline, really.
Yeah. Oh, so interesting. I mean, there's so much you can teach me here. So if I've sort of decided what it is I care about enough to talk about for 8 episodes, and I've kind of roughly got an audience, I think, what do I need to do next? Because I'm at that exact point this minute that we're talking.
Yeah. Well, the most important thing is just to start. And I know that's really overdone advice for pretty much everything, but it really is, because only when you start and you start listening back to the episodes that you started recording, you maybe start thinking, I want to change the format this way or that way. Like, people make a mistake of, I think, over-planning a little bit, but also on the other end of the spectrum, make a mistake of not planning at all. So there's like a sweet spot of, this is what I'm going to try, and I'm either going to prove or disprove this sort of hypothesis almost, right? So in your case, if you're doing a limited series, like maybe I would sketch out roughly what is that going to look like, really, really roughly, and then for the next 1 or 2 episodes, write out an episode plan, and then just kind of get to it. And in terms of making the content, that's really what it is, and it's just a bit of sort of coming back and reviewing what you've done, really trying to get feedback from listeners as well, and that's quite tough, right? Even if it's just like my harshest critic is my partner. She will listen and she'll say, why were you rambling for 10 minutes at this point? And I was like, no.
I think you're onto a winner there. You can actually get your partner to listen. That's a good start.
Yeah, absolutely. Get someone to listen, give you a little bit of feedback, and make sure it's someone that doesn't mind telling you that you're not getting what you're setting out to do.
Yeah. And if I have got my idea, I know my audience, I'm starting to record some content. Personally speaking, as a voiceover artist, I've got a lovely studio. I've got great ways of recording and sending my work to clients. Yeah. I've even got connectivity to the outside world.
Yeah.
But what have I got to do between all of that setup that I've got now? I'm lucky I've got a lovely studio. And somehow somebody can download something from somewhere. For me, that is where I just go, I don't know.
Yeah. So, you're already well set up to record quality audio. Where are you with editing? Have you done any?
Yeah, I'm good.
You're good with editing?
I'm good with editing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So then really we are just talking about the hosting, getting it out into the world kind of aspect.
Yeah.
So have you picked a host already?
I don't know what that is.
So...
do you see why I'm having to do this?
Yeah, and this is a great idea as well. It's a great idea because there'll be lots of people asking the same questions. So a podcast gets to your phone via something called an RSS feed.
Okay.
And that is essentially a structured list of, this is the title of the episode, this is where the file lives on some computer somewhere on the internet, and your phone can take that RSS feed address and go and find out this episode's called that, the show's called that, this is where the episode lives, and it'll download that and it'll make it look all nice in your Apple Podcasts app or whatever you use. The host's job is essentially to create that RSS feed. Okay,
right.
So any podcast listening app or any other little bits of software can go and find it and find out what's it called, where's the files, all that kind of stuff. It's a computer somewhere on the internet.
So
that
it lives
anyone can
somewhere on a
access.
computer, and their job is to make it look nice and make it available for people.
That's it, 100%. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Do you know, I've just learnt a thing. I feel I should have some kind of jingle right at that point, but that's useful knowledge. And then people can go and get it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So once you upload your edited files to a host, you then, depending on the host, you can either click a few buttons to submit it to Apple Podcasts or like Spotify, etc. Probably those are the main two that you want to do, and then the rest will kind of pick it up. That's the next step, right? So you've got it on the host, it's on that computer, and then you need to go and tell Apple Podcasts, this is where it is. This is the RSS feed address.
Okay.
And other people kind of pay attention to Apple Podcasts, and Spotify does its own thing. Once you've done that, you've uploaded it to your host, you've put your RSS feed into Apple Podcasts and Spotify, you'll then, within probably a few hours, be able to actually just go and listen to it on your phone send other people there.
That's very cool, and I almost have my head around it. So I'm lucky because I'm in that position where I've got a studio and things. If say, I had the greatest idea and I just wanted to come into podcasting, you've got tools to help people do that, right? So tell us, what have you got in your stall?
So we are a company in two parts. We've been around for 10 years all in all. So our founder, Colin Gray, started the podcasthost.com, like I say, about 10 years ago. And if you Google how to start a podcast in most countries, we'll be top of the list.
Good job.
Yeah, I know. We're very proud. So we educate people on that side of things. And then about 3 years ago, people had asked us so many times, how do I simplify the editing? Because this is the thing that's really holding me back, right? And you'll know yourself, it can get quite technical, right? There's a lot of going around in loops and trying to remove bits or make yourself sound good, or it's really easy to overthink as well, is the thing. So we made this little bit of software called Alitu, and it started off just as something that you can upload your audio to, and it would remove some background noise and do some leveling and just do some kind of basic audio engineering stuff. Take that completely out of the equation for people who just want to tell stories.
Great idea.
They want to focus on the purpose, but they don't want to become sound engineers, they don't want to become editors, they just want to create content. But now Alitu's evolved into something whereby you can go in and record with up to 10 people. We will then clean up your audio, do all that audio engineering stuff, all the technical stuff, and then you can build your episode with reusable drag and drop blocks. And once you're done, press build, we'll do it, go make a coffee, or, do something else with your podcast, promote your last episode or whatever, and press publish, and we'll send it out into the world. So theoretically, you could edit an episode in like 15 minutes instead of a few hours.
Gosh.
So, yeah.
That's great, as you say, for people who have no interest in the technical side of it at all, but do have amazing stories to tell and can connect with audiences.
Yeah, 100%.
Brilliant. Okay, look, we're nearly at the end of this fantastic conversation. Have you got one tip to share about successful podcasting?
Yeah. The first tip is probably going to be the first pillar of our 10 pillars of independent podcasting, which we just published. And it is podcasting is a long game. Okay?
Ooh.
Remember at all times what your why is, what that purpose is, and enjoy yourself along the way. Don't focus on, becoming rich and famous overnight, because it's probably not going to happen. But enjoy yourself, tell your story, remember your purpose, and just embrace the fact that it's a long game. And enjoy all the connections you make along the way. That's a beautiful thing about podcasts. And we're here today at the Podcast Host, and the incredible thing about being in this room is that it's about 2,000 people who talk professionally, and they're great conversationalists. You will meet amazing people, so embrace it.
That's a superb tip. Thank you so much for joining us, and I do feel slightly better informed.
Good. Success.
Thank you, Jacob Anderson from Alitu. Brilliant to see you.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Podcasting. Coming up in the next show, we talk to Nick Redman, voiceover artist, voice coach and podcaster.
So can anyone do a podcast, do you think? So like anything, there's a few little processes that you have to learn. But ultimately, if you've got the passion for sharing some kind of information, it's the perfect way of doing it without it costing you a lot. Finding comfort on the mic so that you don't feel like you're umming and ahhing all the time. Not that ums and ahs are that much of an issue. It's just for some people, they do get a little bit upset with themselves.
To make sure you get hold of the latest Camilla and Clare Investigate, subscribe on your favourite podcast app. Thanks!